So, I'm going to explain to you Pride and Prejudice in just a few minutes or so. Yeah. So, basically, this is dedicated to Benedetta because she told me that she doesn't know what the hell is happening in Pride and Prejudice. Okay, so first off, well, Pride and Prejudice is the name of the book by Jane Austen, right? Alright, so, the two dynamic characters in the story is Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. Mr. Darcy, Elizabeth. Get that? Okay. So basically, Pride is Mr. Darcy because he got a lot to be proud of. I mean, he got a lot going there. He got an education. He got he got a lot of money. He got a good job. He got a good house. I mean, like, of course you'd be proud, but that doesn't mean that he should be going looking down on people. No, he shouldn't be talking down on people, thinking that he's all that, even though he kind of is. But no, he got no right to say that, although he has the right to be proud, but he shouldn't be so arrogant. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he's Pride. He's a little arrogant son of a bitch. And then we got Prejudice. Elizabeth is Prejudice because she thinks that she knows everything. She has a certain mindset, and when she first thinks of you this way, that's the only way she'll think about you. So yeah, she's pretty prejudiced. She's not like her sister Jane, who sees that good in everybody. No. That's not Jane. That's not Elizabeth. That's Jane. Not Elizabeth. Jane. Elizabeth. Jane. No. Hi, Charlene. My sister walked in the room. Say hi, Charlene.
Hi. Are you recording?
Yes, I'm recording a video about Pride and Prejudice. The book I'm reading in class. Okay, so anyways, we start with the Bennet family. And the sisters' names are Catherine, Lydia, Elizabeth, Jane, and somebody else. I'm forgetting somebody. Hold on, let me go check. Jane, Elizabeth, Lydia, Mary, and Catherine. There you go. 5. There's 5 sisters. They're the Bennet sisters. And Mrs. Bennet, she kind of wears the pants in the family. And Mr. Bennet, he just, he goes along with everything. Right? So the Bennet sisters, they're in the middle class, so they're not rich, they're not poor, they're just like in there. And Mrs. Bennet wants her daughters to marry so they can have a rich inheritance from their husbands. So that's why they went out and looking for all these people like Mr. Bingley, Mr. Darcy. So basically, Mrs. Bennet is egging her daughters along to be like hoes. Yeah, she wants her daughters to be like hoes. Get with anybody who has money and looks handsome. Doesn't matter if you're in love or not. So they're hoes. The Bennet sisters are hoes. So yeah. And okay. So there's this whole thing with Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy, right? Okay. So Darcy's daddy, he and Mr. Wickham's daddy were good friends, but then Mr. Wickham's daddy, he died. Yeah, he went up there. You know what I'm talking about? He went to Canada. Yeah, that's where he went. So Mr. Darcy's father decided to take care of Mr. Wickham, right? And Mr. Darcy's daddy gave Mr. Wickham money to go to school with Mr. Darcy, and it cost a lot of money. Like Preston costs a lot of money. So, yeah, Mr. Wickham said he'd do this, but he didn't do it. But then Mr. Darcy's dad died and left an inheritance, and that inheritance money that Mr. Wickham got was supposed to go to something that Mr. Wickham said he was going to do, but he didn't. He wasted it all. And Mr. Darcy, Mr. Darcy, not the daddy, the other Mr. Darcy, the one who likes Elizabeth, the one who's prejudiced, Mr. Darcy who's Pride, well, he did what he was supposed to do, so he got his inheritance. And Mr. Wickham is telling everybody, including Elizabeth, that Mr. Darcy stole Mr. Wickham's inheritance, even though it's Mr. Wickham's fault that he lost his inheritance, because he didn't do what he said he was supposed to do. So yeah, and Mr. Wickham, he's a player. He's a little player because he's trying to get all his inheritance back. So he was trying to get with Georgiana Darcy, who's Mr. Darcy's sister, and then with Lydia, I think, and some other ladies. So yeah, Mr. Mr. Wickham is kind of like a man whore because he's trying to get with everybody just so he can get money. So he's a male prostitute. You could look at it that way. And Mr. Darcy, well, everybody thinks he's kind of like a bad person because he's all proud and whatnot because he's a little arrogant. But I guess he's a pretty good person. And the reason why Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy fought was because, Mr. Bingley and Jane got a little something going on, you know? They got a little something going on. And, oh, wait, look, I got an IM. Hold on. Okay, so anyway, what I was saying. Yeah. Jane and Mr. Bingley have a little thing going on. You go like boom, boom, boom in the room. Party in your bedroom. No, I'm just kidding. But they have danced at a couple dances, like at Meryton and some other place. So Jane and Mr. Bingley really like each other. But Mr. Darcy, Renelle, go away. Go away. Close the door. Goodbye. Close the door. Ugh. Anyway, so
Where's the phone?
Mr. Darcy in the room. Go, close the door. Sorry, my brother. So Mr. Darcy went to Mr. Bingley and said, "Yo, my homie, my bro, look, this girl, this little hoe, Jane, she don't love you like you love her. No, she just using you for your money, 'cause you know her family ain't that good. 'Cause her father is supposed to have the dick and everything and be in control and protect his family, but no, he got his little son of a bitch, Mrs. Bennet, ruling the whole family. Like, Mrs. Bennet, she's a fucking spoiled bitch, and she's just spoiling her daughters. Like, look at the daughters. They're all screwed up. Except for Elizabeth and Jane. They're the only two straight children that he got. But, you know, Jane, she don't love you. No, she don't love you like you love her. So you gotta leave her. 'Cause I don't want you getting heartbroken. And so, yeah. And Mr. Darcy went to Georgiana. And Georgiana agreed with Mr. Darcy. She's like, "Hey, yo, my bro there, Mr. Fitzwilliam or whatever. Yeah, listen to him, 'cause I agree with him. That Jane girl, she don't love you like you love her. She's just using you, 'cause she wants your money, 'cause she's a little hoe." But yeah, so Elizabeth got offended. No. Elizabeth also found out about the thing with the inheritance with Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy, but I already told you what really happened. See, Mr. Wickham was trying to steal Elizabeth from Mr. Darcy, so it's like a love triangle. Like, here's Mr. Darcy, and here's Mr. Wickham, and up here is Elizabeth. Mr. Wickham was trying to get Elizabeth, when Mr. Darcy was really trying to get when Mr. Darcy's the one who's supposed to get with Elizabeth. But Elizabeth now found out that Mr. Wickham was lying after Mr. Darcy wrote the letter explaining everything. Right? Yeah. And, that little man whore, Mr. Wickham, he went all the way to London just to see Georgiana Darcy and tried to marry her just to get the inheritance. But when Mr. Darcy found out about this, he found out that Mr. Wickham was only going after his sister just for the inheritance. But Mr. Wickham found out that if Georgiana died, he wouldn't get any of the inheritance. He'd end up with nothing. So Mr. Wickham was like, "You know what? Fuck this. I ain't gonna marry you, Georgiana. Goodbye." So he left London. Yeah. That's basically all I got so far, you know? This is like really confusing, this whole Pride and Prejudice thing. I'm on Spark Notes right now, but I hope you got what I explained so far. I wonder if there's something else that I have to explain. Well, that's all I got so far. Maybe I'll make another video later if I think of a new ways to explain Pride and Prejudice or understand more. But yeah, that's it. Bye!